Translate this, and I'll give you $1,000,000, the millionaire said, laughing. The executives burst into laughter, but when the girl opened her mouth, the laughter froze on their faces. Thorn Tower soared over the city like a monument to power, 60 floors of glass and steel reflecting the clouds, built with the sweat of thousands of workers who would never set foot in its executive offices. On the top floor, where the air felt more exclusive and the carpets cost more than entire houses, a scene was unfolding that would change destinies forever. Lily Evans's hands were icy, not from the air conditioning that kept the meeting room at a perfect temperature, but from the terror coursing through every vein in her body. She stood in the middle of a room full of people staring at her as if she were a stain on their designer shoes. Her mother, Sarah, had brought her that day because there was no one to care for her. It was a school holiday, and the options were to bring her to work or leave her alone in their small apartment. Sarah had chosen what she believed was safer. How wrong she was. And what is this? Alexander Thorne's voice cut the silence like a rusty knife. The CEO of Thorne International Holdings was a man who had built his empire on the backs of others. His suit cost what Sarah earned in a year, his watch, what she would earn in 5. But the most expensive thing he owned was his contempt for anyone he considered inferior. And for Alexander Thorne, almost everyone was inferior. Mr. Thorne, I apologize. Sarah stepped forward, her voice trembling. My daughter had nowhere to stay today. She'll be quiet in the break room. She won't bother anyone, I promise. The break room. Thorne arched an eyebrow, looking Lily up and down with a barely disguised sneer of disgust. Your daughter? You brought her to my company as if this were a daycare center. The executives around the table began to murmur. Mark Davis, the corporate attorney and Thorne's right-hand man, smiled with that look of satisfaction only cowards show when someone more powerful humiliates the weak. Sir, Sarah began. Silence. Thorne raised a hand. His eyes did not leave Lily. Come closer, girl. Lily looked at her mother. She saw the fear in her eyes, the silent plea to obey without causing trouble. Sarah had worked at that company for years. She cleaned the floors others dirtied, tidied the offices others messed up. She endured humiliations others would never imagine, all to give her daughter a better life. With slow steps, Lily walked to the center of the room. The glass walls showed the city below, small and insignificant. The conference table gleamed under the lights, so polished Lily could see her own reflection. A girl in a school uniform, a blue backpack hanging from one shoulder, completely out of place in that temple of corporate power. What's your name? Thorne asked, leaning forward in his leather chair. Lily, sir. Lily, he repeated, savoring the name, as if it were something bitter. Tell me, Lily, what does your mother do here? The question was a trap. Lily knew it. Any answer would be used as a weapon. She works, sir, she replied in a low voice. Works. Thorne let out a short laugh. You call cleaning the restrooms we use, picking up the trash we generate, work? Some executives chuckled. Others looked away, uncomfortable, but lacking the courage to intervene. It's honest work, sir, Lily said, and something in her voice made the laughter stop. Thorne narrowed his eyes. He wasn't used to being talked back to, even less so by the daughter of his cleaning employee. Honest work, he stood up, his imposing height casting a shadow over Lily. Your mother earns in a month what I spend on a single dinner, and you come here to lecture me about honesty. Alexander. A feminine voice intervened from the other side of the table. It was Elena Dubois, the French investor who had come to negotiate a multi-million-dollar deal. Perhaps we should continue with the meeting. The documents can wait. Thorne did not take his eyes off Lily. He had found new entertainment. Tell me, studious girl, how smart are you? Do you get good grades in your neighborhood school? Lily didn't answer. She kept her gaze down, as her mother had taught her. Don't cause trouble, don't draw attention, survive. I asked you a question. Thorne's voice hardened. Yes, sir. I get good grades. In what subjects? All of them, sir. Another chuckle ran through the room. Mark Davis leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with malice. All of them? Even languages? The lawyer asked. Yes, sir. And what languages do you speak, little genius? Thorne crossed his arms, his smile widening. Lily hesitated. She knew anything she said would be mocked, but she also knew lying was worse. Her mother had taught her that too. The truth, even if it hurts, is always better than a lie. Spanish, English, French, German, and Arabic, sir. The silence that followed was absolute. And then, Alexander Thorne did something no one expected. He threw his head back and let out a laugh so thunderous it made the windows vibrate. A laugh that contained all his contempt, all his disbelief, all his disdain for that girl who dared to claim something so absurd. 5 languages, he exclaimed between laughs. The cleaning lady's daughter speaks 5 languages. The executives joined the laughter. It was easier to laugh with the boss than to remain silent. It was safer to be an accomplice than to be neutral. Sarah wanted to run to her daughter, but her feet were nailed to the floor. Tears threatened to fall, but she held them back. She couldn't show weakness. Not here, not now. Mr. Thorne. Elena Dubois spoke again, this time with a firmer tone. I think this has gone on long enough. But Thorne wasn't finished. He had an idea he found brilliant in its cruelty. He approached the table and picked up a stack of documents. They were the contracts for the international negotiation that would take place that afternoon. Documents in 5 different languages prepared by professional translators who charged fortunes for their work. Very well, little polyglot. Thorne approached Lily, shaking the papers in front of her face. I propose a deal. Alexander, Elena began. Silence, he ordered, without looking at her. His eyes were fixed on Lily like a predator observing its prey. I'll give you $1 million if you translate this. The room erupted in commotion. $1 million to a child? Mark Davis smiled widely. He understood perfectly what his boss was doing. It was a perfect humiliation. The girl couldn't translate anything. She would be ridiculed, and her mother would learn the lesson of never again bringing problems to the office. Here are documents in English, French, German, Arabic, and Japanese. Thorne continued. If you can read and translate them correctly, I'll give you the money. $1 million right now, in front of everyone. That's unfair, Sarah finally found her voice. She's just a child. A child who claims to speak 5 languages, isn't that right, Lily? Thorne didn't even look at her. Or were you lying? Lily looked up, for the first time since she had entered the room. Her eyes met Thorne's. In them there was no fear, no shame. There was something the CEO hadn't seen in a long time. There was fire. I wasn't lying, sir, Lily said, her voice clear and firm. But you mentioned Japanese. I said I spoke Arabic, not Japanese. Thorne's smile wavered for a second. Then I suppose you lose by default. What a shame. But I can try anyway. Lily extended her hand. Give me the documents. A murmur ran through the room. No one expected that. Everyone expected tears, apologies, complete humiliation. Not a child extending her hand with the same authority as an executive closing a deal. Thorne hesitated. For the first time in the conversation, he seemed unsure how to proceed, but his pride was greater than his prudence. As you wish. He handed her the documents with a contemptuous smile. You have 5 minutes. Lily took the papers, her hands no longer trembling. Something had changed in her, or perhaps something that had always been there, had finally awakened. She looked at the first document. It was in English. It was an investment contract with complex clauses on equity percentages and financial guarantees. She began to read aloud. At first, no one paid real attention. They expected her to babble, to get confused, to demonstrate the farce they all believed it was. But then, the words began to flow. Lily didn't just read. She translated simultaneously into Spanish, explaining the meaning of each clause with a precision that made Elena Dubois lean forward in her seat. Wait, the French investor interrupted. What did you say about the termination clause? Lily repeated the translation, adding legal context that even the lawyers present hadn't considered. The second document was in French. Lily took it and, looking directly at Elena, began to read in perfect Parisian French. Elena Dubois pallid. Her pronunciation, she murmured in her native language, it's impeccable. Lily smiled slightly and continued with the Spanish translation. The third document was in German. It was a technical report on international bank transfers. Lily read it with the same fluency, her accent so perfect that Karl Brenner, the German banker present as a consultant, took off his glasses to get a better look at her. Where did you learn German? He asked in his language. My neighbor was German, sir, Lily replied, also in German. She taught me since I was very little. She used to say words are bridges between worlds. The fourth document was in Arabic. It was a letter of intent from Omar al-Rashid, the businessman who would negotiate via video conference that afternoon. Lily took the paper and began to read the Arabic characters from right to left, her voice adopting the particular cadence of that ancient language. Omar al-Rashid, who was connected by video conference to observe the preliminary meeting, stood up from his seat in his office thousands of miles away. Who is this child? He asked in Arabic. The cleaning lady's daughter, Lily replied in the same language, without taking her eyes off the document. "And your letter is very well written, Mr. Al-Rashid. Especially the paragraph about the importance of trust in business." The room was in complete silence. Alexander Thorne had stopped smiling. His face had transformed into a mask of disbelief that slowly tinged with something more dangerous: humiliation. Only one document remained. The one in Japanese, the language Lily had admitted not knowing. Thorne saw his opportunity. "The last one," he said, regaining some of his composure. "Japanese. You said you don't speak it. I suppose that's where your little show ends." Lily looked at the document. The Japanese characters looked back at her like an impossible riddle. She felt the weight of all eyes on her. She felt her mother's hope. She felt Thorne's contempt. She felt the amazement of the international investors. And then she did something no one expected. She walked over to where Yuki Tanaka, the Japanese executive, was seated. She bowed respectfully, as she had seen done in educational videos, and spoke. "Miss Tanaka, I don't speak Japanese, but I've studied your country's culture for years. I know that in Japan, admitting what you don't know is as important as demonstrating what you do know. I humbly ask you to teach me to read this document. Not today, but someday." The silence that followed was different from all the previous ones. Yuki Tanaka slowly stood up. Her eyes shone with something that might have been admiration, or perhaps something deeper. "In Japan," she said in Spanish with a soft accent, "we have a word, gambaru. It means to strive your hardest, never give up, give your all, even if the outcome is uncertain." She looked at Thorne with an expression that made the CEO take a step back. "This child has just shown more gambar than any executive I've met in 20 years of business." Elena Dubois stood up as well. "I completely agree. What I just witnessed is extraordinary." Carl Brenner nodded. "I've never seen anything like it." Omar Al-Rashid, from the screen, spoke in a deep Spanish voice. "Mr. Thorne, you promised $1 million. The girl translated 4 out of 5 documents perfectly. I would say she has more than fulfilled her part." Thorne looked around. The allies he expected to have had turned against him. The humiliation he had planned for a child now fell upon his own shoulders. "This is ridiculous!" His voice trembled with contained fury. "It was a joke. Obviously, I'm not going to give $1 million to a brat." "A joke?" Elena Dubois repeated slowly. "Humiliating a child in front of international investors seems funny to you, Mr. Thorne?" "This is my company." Thorne slammed the table. "I decide what's funny and what's not." Mark Davis tried to intervene. "Perhaps we should take a break." "No one asked for your opinion," Thorne yelled at his own lawyer. Lily remained standing in the center of the room, holding the documents against her chest. She looked at her mother, who was crying silently near the door. Tears of pride, mixed with fear of what would come next. Because both knew the truth. Thorne would not forgive this humiliation. No matter what the investors thought, no matter what was right or just, revenge would come. It was only a matter of time. But at that moment, as the afternoon sun streamed through the windows and bathed the room in golden light, Lily Evans had achieved something no one believed possible. She had made a giant tremble. And that, though she didn't know it yet, was just the beginning. Because somewhere in that glass and steel tower, someone else had been watching. Someone who knew secrets that would change everything. And that someone had just found exactly what they had been looking for years. The consequences arrived faster than Sarah had feared. That same night, as mother and daughter walked toward their small apartment on the city's outskirts, Sarah's phone rang. The number was from the company. Her heart stopped before she answered. "Miss Evans." The voice on the other end was cold, professional. "Human Resources here. You are informed that your services will no longer be required at Thorne International Holdings. You can come tomorrow to collect your severance." The call disconnected before Sarah could respond. Lily watched her mother's face crumple, as tears began to fall, as her shoulders slumped under an invisible but crushing weight. "Mom." Lily reached out her hand. "Don't say anything," Sarah whispered. "Please, not now." They walked the rest of the way in silence, a silence that weighed more than any words. Lily felt the knot in her throat growing with each step. She had caused this. Her moment of bravery had destroyed her family's only source of income. The apartment greeted them with its usual darkness. Sarah didn't turn on the lights. She sat on the only dining chair and dropped her head into her hands. 15 years, she murmured. 15 years working there, enduring everything. And in one day, it's all over. "Mom, I didn't mean to." "I know you didn't mean to." Sarah raised her voice for the first time. Her eyes gleamed with tears and something else. Something Lily had never seen in her. Desperation. "But now we have nothing, Lily. Do you understand? Nothing. Rent is due in 2 weeks. I have no savings. I have no other job waiting for me. What are we going to do? Lily had no answer. She stood in the middle of the small living room, feeling every word from her mother pierce her chest like ice needles. I should have kept quiet, she finally said. I should have let him mock me. And then, Sarah took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. No, honey, what you did was brave. It was incredible. But in this world, the brave don't always win. Sometimes the powerful simply crush those who dare to challenge them. That's not fair. No, it's not. The silence returned, heavier than before. Lily approached her mother and hugged her. Sarah sobbed against her daughter's shoulder, letting out all the fear and frustration she had held back for hours, for years, if she was honest. We'll find a solution, Lily whispered. I don't know how, but we will. I promise. Sarah didn't respond. She just continued crying. The following days were the hardest Lily could remember. Sarah left every morning before dawn, looking for work anywhere that would accept her: restaurants, shops, cleaning offices. But every door closed with the same answer: no vacancies. What Sarah didn't know was that Alexander Thorne had made calls. He had used his influence to ensure that no company in the city would hire the woman who had raised the girl who humiliated him. It was his form of revenge. Silent, effective, ruthless. Lily continued attending school, but her mind was elsewhere. She gazed out the window during classes, thinking of her mother walking under the sun, knocking on doors that never opened. Lily Evans, are you paying attention? The teacher's voice snapped her out of her thoughts. All eyes in the class were on her. Yes, teacher, I'm sorry. Then can you tell me the answer to the question I just asked? Lily had no idea what the question was, but her mind worked fast. She looked at the blackboard, saw the numbers of the mathematical equation, and in seconds calculated the answer. 42. Teacher. The teacher blinked in surprise. Correct. But try to be more present in class, Miss Evans. Lily nodded, but her mind had already begun to wander again. She needed to find a way to help her mother. She needed to fix what she had caused. A week after the dismissal, the situation was critical. The refrigerator was almost empty, bills piled up unpaid, and Sarah had started coughing, a deep and worrying sound that worsened every night. It's just a cold, she would say when Lily asked her. Don't worry. But Lily did worry. She could see her mother weakening, the dark circles under her eyes growing, how each day that passed without work robbed her of a little more hope. It was then that Lily made a decision. She waited until her mother fell asleep and turned on their old computer. The internet connection was slow, but it worked. She began searching for online translation jobs, services where people paid for document translations. She had no certificates, no credentials, nothing but her languages and her determination. She created an account under a false name. She couldn't use her own. She was underage, and the rules didn't allow her to work. But rules didn't feed her mother. Rules didn't pay the rent. Her first job was small, translating a restaurant menu from Spanish to English. It paid only a few cents, but Lily did it with the same dedication she had put into Thorne's meeting room. When the client left a positive review, something changed. Other clients began to contact her. Legal documents, business letters, important emails. Each job was more complex than the last, but Lily didn't stop. She worked until dawn when her mother slept. She woke up early for school. She slept barely a few hours, but every cent she earned went directly into an account she had managed to open, with borrowed documents from an adult neighbor who owed her mother favors. Weeks passed. Sarah noticed changes she couldn't explain. The refrigerator had food. Bills appeared paid. But when she asked, Lily only said she had found coins in the street or that a neighbor had given them groceries. Lily, Sarah confronted her one night. I need you to tell me the truth. Where is the money coming from? Lily hesitated. She hated lying to her mother, but she also knew that if she told her the truth, Sarah would forbid her to continue. And then, what would they eat? I'm doing small jobs, she finally said, helping classmates with homework. Nothing bad, Mom, I promise. Sarah looked at her for a long moment. Her mother's eyes knew there was more, but they also knew her daughter was trying to help in the only way she knew how. Promise me you're not doing anything dangerous. I promise. It was a half promise. Working to exhaustion was dangerous. Falsifying her age to work was illegal. But Lily convinced herself that it was necessary, that the end justified the means. How wrong she was. The call came a month after the dismissal. Lily was in class when the principal entered the room with a grave expression. Lily Evans, I need you to come with me. Murmurs filled the classroom as Lily stood up. She walked behind the principal through hallways that suddenly seemed longer, more menacing. In the principal's office, two people waited, a man and a woman, both with professional expressions that revealed nothing. "Lily, these are from Child Protective Services," the principal explained. "They have some questions for you." "No," Lily's heart sank. "Miss Evans," the man spoke in a neutral voice, "we've received an anonymous report about your family situation. It claims that you are working illegally and that your mother has no employment or means to support you." "That's not," Lily began. "We also received documentation suggesting you've been using false identities to operate on online work platforms," the woman added. "Is that true?" Lily felt the world closing in around her. Someone had reported her. Someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Thorn had to be him. His revenge hadn't ended with her mother's dismissal. He had waited, he had watched, and now he was attacking where it hurt the most. "We need to speak with your mother," the man continued. "And depending on what we find, we may have to consider alternative custody options." "Alternative custody?" Lily felt the air leave her lungs. "You want to take me away from my mom?" "No one wants that," the woman said, but her voice didn't sound convincing. "We just want to make sure you're in a safe environment." "My mother is the safest person in the world." Lily felt tears threatening to fall, but she held them back with all her willpower. "She has sacrificed everything for me. Everything. And if I made mistakes, it was to help her, not because she forced me." "We understand it's a difficult situation," the man said, "but we have procedures to follow." Sarah arrived at school 30 minutes later. When she entered the office and saw the officials, her face paled. When she heard the accusations, her eyes filled with tears. When she understood they could take her daughter away, something in her broke. "Please," she pleaded, in a broken voice. "My daughter was just trying to help me. It's my fault, all my fault. Punish me, not her." "Miss Evans, we're not here to punish anyone," the woman said. "We're here to assess the situation. The situation is that I lost my job unfairly." Sarah raised her voice for the first time. "They fired me because my daughter proved to be smarter than the most powerful man in that company. And since then, that man has made sure to destroy our lives. He's the one who should be investigated, not us." "Madam, we understand you're upset. You don't understand anything." Sarah was sobbing now. "You don't understand what it's like to walk the streets looking for work while your daughter goes hungry. You don't understand what it's like to see your child stay up until dawn trying to save us. You don't understand anything." Lily went to her mother and hugged her. Both were crying now, clinging to each other, as if the world was trying to pull them apart. And in a way, it was. "We're going to need to visit your home," the man finally said. "And we want to interview Lily separately. It's standard procedure." "You're not going to separate me from my daughter," Sarah said with a fierce determination that cut through her tears. "No one is talking about separation yet." The woman tried to calm the situation. "We're just... yet?" Sarah repeated the word as if it were poison. "Did you hear that, Lily? Yet. As if it's inevitable. As if they've already decided." "Mom," Lily whispered, "everything will be fine. We're going to show them we're a family, that we take care of each other. They'll see the truth." "The truth?" Sarah murmured bitterly. "The truth is that we poor people don't have a truth. We only have the story the rich decide to tell about us." The separate interview was the longest hour of Lily's life. They asked her questions about her mother, about her home, about her meals, about her dreams, about her fears. Every answer was analyzed, noted, judged. "Has your mother ever hurt you?" "Never. My mother is the gentlest person alive." "Do you feel safe in your home?" "I feel safe because I'm with her." "Why did you start working online?" Lily hesitated before answering. She knew the truth could make things worse, but she also knew that lying had brought her here. "Because my mother got sick from looking for work she couldn't find. Because we had nothing to eat. Because I was the only one who could do something. And languages are all I have." "Did you know it was illegal?" "I knew it was necessary." The official looked at her for a long moment. There was something in her eyes Lily couldn't decipher. Compassion, judgment, both. "Lily, do you know who made the anonymous report about your family?" "I think so." "Who?" "Alexander Thorn. The man who fired my mother. The man who promised to give me $1 million if I translated documents and then mocked me when I did." The official took note. "That's a serious accusation." "It's the truth." When they were finally allowed to reunite, mother and daughter embraced as if they hadn't seen each other in years. "They're not going to separate us," Lily whispered in her mother's ear. "I won't let them." "My brave girl," Sarah kissed her forehead. "My little warrior." But as they left the school, neither of them noticed the vehicle parked across the street, nor the man watching them with a satisfied smile. Mark Davis lowered his window and dialed a number on his phone. Mr. Thorne, everything went as planned. The authorities are already involved. It's only a matter of time before the girl ends up in the foster care system. Thorne's voice sounded pleased on the other end of the line. Excellent. No one humiliates me and gets away with it. Absolutely no one. What about the mother? She's already destroyed, jobless, penniless, and soon without a daughter. It's enough punishment for now. And if someone discovers our involvement? Thorne chuckled softly. Who's going to believe a cleaning lady about the actions of one of the most powerful men in the country? No one. That's the privilege of power, Mark. We can do whatever we want. And the world simply looks the other way. The call disconnected. Mark started the engine and drove away, leaving behind a mother and daughter walking arm in arm toward an uncertain future. But what none of them knew was that someone else had been listening to that conversation. Someone who had installed a listening device on Mark's phone months ago, waiting for exactly this moment. Someone who knew all of Alexander Thorne's secrets. And that someone had just decided it was time to act. Because in the shadows of Thorne Tower, a storm was about to break. And when it came, nothing would ever be the same. Richard Maxwell had lived 73 years, learning a fundamental truth. Real power is measured not in shouts, but in silences. Sitting in his private office, in an unnamed building downtown, he listened for the third time to the recording of the conversation between Mark Davis and Alexander Thorne. Every word confirmed what he had suspected for years. His nephew had become a monster. Because yes, Alexander Thorne was his nephew, the son of his younger sister, whom Richard had raised as his own. When she died of an illness, doctors never explained. He had given him education, opportunities, contacts. He had taught him everything about business, and Alexander had used every lesson to build an empire of cruelty. Mr. Maxwell, his assistant's voice, a woman named Maria Rodriguez, interrupted his thoughts. The investigations you requested are complete. Maria placed a thick folder on the desk. She was a middle-aged woman, discreet, efficient. She had worked for Richard for decades and knew secrets that could bring down governments. What did you find about the girl? Richard asked without looking up. Lily Evans, outstanding student, perfect grades at all levels, speaks 5 languages with proven fluency. Her mother, Sarah Evans, worked 15 years at Thorne International Holdings until her unjust dismissal a month ago. And the anonymous complaint? We traced the origin. It was made from a burner phone, but cell towers located the call inside Thorne Tower, specifically on the legal department floor. Mark, Richard murmured the name as if it were poison. There's more, Maria continued. The mother is ill. It started as a simple cough, but it has worsened. Our contacts at the community hospital indicate she has visited the free clinic 3 times in the last 2 weeks. Doctors suspect severe bronchitis, possibly progressing to pneumonia. She needs medication she cannot afford. Richard closed his eyes. The image of Sarah walking in the rain looking for work, getting sick while her daughter worked until dawn to keep them afloat, caused him a pang of guilt. He had created the monster destroying those lives. What about the Child Protective Services case? Hearing scheduled for 1 week from now. If the evaluation determines the home is inadequate, Lily will be removed from her mother's custody and placed in the system. And the evaluators? That's where it gets interesting. Maria pulled out another document. One of the assigned officials, David Miller, has financial connections with subsidiary companies of Thorne Holdings. He receives monthly payments categorized as consulting, but there's no evidence of any services rendered. A disguised bribe. Richard nodded slowly. Alexander bought the evaluator. That appears to be the case. The verdict is likely already decided. Richard rose from his chair and walked to the window. From there, he could see Thorne Tower shining in the distance, a monument to the ego of a man without conscience. For years, Richard had watched from the shadows. He had founded Thorne International Holdings decades ago, but had retired when his health began to fail, leaving everything in the hands of his nephew. It had been his biggest mistake. Alexander had transformed the company, made it bigger, richer, more powerful, but he had also turned it into something corrupt. Bribes to officials, destruction of competitors, exploitation of workers, and now, persecution of a mother and her daughter for the simple crime of having wounded his pride. Maria, Richard spoke without turning. I need you to do something for me. Anything you order. I want to meet that girl, Lily Evans. Lily was walking home from school when she noticed someone following her. It wasn't obvious. Whoever it was knew how to keep their distance. But Lily had developed keen instincts in recent weeks. Living under constant threat does that to people. She quickened her pace. The follower also quickened theirs. Her heart began to beat faster. It was someone sent by Thorn. Another move in his cruel game. She thought of running, but her legs were trembling too much. "Lily Evans," a female voice called out to her. She turned sharply. A middle-aged woman approached with her hands visible, showing she posed no threat. "Who are you?" Lily took a step back. "My name is Maria Rodriguez. I don't mean you any harm. I'm here to offer help." "Help?" Lily laughed bitterly. "The last person who offered help ended up reporting us to the authorities. I understand your distrust, but there's someone who wants to meet you. Someone who knows what Alexander Thorn has done to you and your mother. Someone who can truly help you both." "Who?" "His name is Richard Maxwell. He was the original owner of Thorn International Holdings." Lily blinked. "The original owner? But Thorn. Thorn is his nephew. Richard founded the company decades ago and handed it over when he retired, but he never imagined what Alexander would turn it into. And why would he want to help us?" Maria looked at her with an expression that mixed sadness and determination. Because he has spent years observing his nephew's cruelties without being able to do anything. Because he saw what Alexander did to you in that meeting room and felt ashamed to share blood with that man. And because he believes that you, Lily, have something he lost a long time ago. "What thing?" "The courage to face the powerful." The meeting took place that same afternoon in a small coffee shop far from downtown. Lily had insisted on a public place, and Richard had accepted without objection. When she saw him enter, Lily was surprised. She expected someone imposing, intimidating. Instead, she found an old man with a slow gait, tired but kind eyes, and a smile that seemed genuine. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." Richard sat across from her with slow movements. "I know you have no reason to trust anyone connected to Thorn." "I don't," Lily confirmed. "But I don't have many options either. Direct. I like that." Richard ordered 2 hot chocolates from the waiter before continuing. "Do you know who I am?" "Your assistant explained it to me. You founded the company. Thorn is your nephew." "More than that," I raised him. "When my sister died, Alexander was barely 8 years old. I took him into my home, educated him, gave him everything I had. I thought I was raising a good man." "You were gravely mistaken," Richard sighed. "Power reveals who we truly are. And Alexander revealed something I didn't want to see. Cruelty, boundless ambition, contempt for anyone he considers inferior. Why didn't you do anything before?" The question hit Richard like a slap. It was the same question he asked himself every night. "Cowardice," he admitted. "Shame, denial. I convinced myself that they were rumors, exaggerations, that the boy I had raised couldn't be so bad. But when I saw you in that meeting room, when I saw how my nephew enjoyed humiliating a child in front of dozens of people, I knew I could no longer look away." "You were there?" "I have access to all the company's security cameras. I never completely relinquished control. It was my last safeguard, although I never thought I would have to use it." Lily processed the information. "So you saw everything. Everything. I saw how you translated those documents with a skill that professionals would take years to develop. I saw how you stood up to a man who has destroyed careers with a snap of his fingers. I saw how, when the Japanese document came, you had the wisdom to admit what you didn't know and the humility to ask to be taught." His eyes welled up slightly. "I saw an extraordinary child being treated like trash by a man who doesn't deserve to clean her shoes." The hot chocolate arrived. Lily wrapped her hands around the cup, absorbing the warmth. "What do you want from me?" she finally asked. "I want to help you and your mother." "How?" Richard took an envelope from his jacket. "Here is enough money to pay for your mother's medical treatment. I know she's sick. I know she needs medications you can't afford." Lily looked at the envelope but didn't touch it. "And, in return?" "Nothing. No one gives something for nothing." Richard smiled with genuine admiration. "You're right. There's always a motive. Mine is redemption. I've spent years allowing my nephew to destroy lives while I quietly counted my money. Helping you won't erase my sins, but perhaps it can prevent me from committing more. There's something else." Lily looked him directly in the eyes. "You want something more than to feel better about yourself." Richard was silent for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "I want to stop Alexander, not just for what he did to you, but for everything he has done for years. The bribes, the manipulations, the lives he has ruined. But I can't do it alone. I need someone I can trust, someone who can't be bought, someone Alexander would never see coming." "Me?" Lily almost laughed. "I'm a child. I have no power. I have no money. I have nothing. You have something more valuable than all that. You have truth. your story, your talent, your courage. The world is already starting to hear about you. The investors who were at that meeting haven't stopped talking about the girl who humiliated Thorne in his own boardroom. Talk. Elena Dubois, the French investor, cancelled all her negotiations with Thorne Holdings. Omar al-Rashid did the same. Carl Brenner is reconsidering his involvement, and Yuki Tanaka published an article in a Japanese business magazine about the importance of recognizing talent regardless of its origin. Lily felt something strange in her chest. Hope, pride, she wasn't sure. And what do you want me to do? For now, nothing. I just want you to accept my help, to allow me to pay for your mother's treatment, to let me protect you both from what's coming. What's coming? Richard's expression darkened. The Child Protective Services hearing. Alexander bought one of the evaluators. The outcome is predetermined. They're going to take you from your mother. Lily's world stopped. How do you know that? Because I have eyes everywhere, and because I know my nephew. He won't rest until he completely destroys you. Tears threatened to fall, but Lily held them back. She wouldn't cry. Not here. Not now. Can you stop him? I can try, but I need time, and I need you to trust me. Lily looked at the envelope on the table. She thought of her mother coughing every night, getting worse every day. She thought of the approaching hearing like an inevitable storm. She thought of all the doors that had closed, all the hopes that had died, and she thought of something her mother always told her. When you have nothing to lose, any outstretched hand is a bridge. She took the envelope. Okay, she said, I'll trust you. But if you betray me, if you hurt my mother in any way, I will find a way to destroy you. I don't know how, but I will. Richard looked at her with a mixture of astonishment and respect. I know, and that's exactly why I believe in you. That night, when Lily arrived home, she found her mother sitting in the dark, crying. Mom! She ran to her. What happened? Sarah held up a crumpled paper. It was an official letter from Child Protective Services. They moved up the hearing. Her voice was barely a whisper. It's the day after tomorrow. They say they have enough evidence to determine our home is inadequate. Lily felt the ground disappear under her feet. Richard had said he needed time, but time had run out. Mom, listen to me. She took her mother's hands in hers. I met someone today. Someone who wants to help us. Someone who has the power to face Thorne. Who? The man who founded his company. His own uncle. Sarah looked at her with disbelief. Thorne's uncle? And you believe him? I don't know if I believe him, but we have to try. It's our only chance. Sarah's cough interrupted the conversation. It was deep, painful, and this time it was accompanied by something that made Lily's heart stop. Blood. On the handkerchief her mother used to cover her mouth were bloodstains. Mom, it's nothing. Sarah tried to hide the handkerchief. It's just… Don't lie to me, Lily cried with tears streaming down her cheeks. How long has this been happening? Sarah didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her eyes said it all. We're going to the hospital now. We can't afford it. Lily pulled out the envelope Richard had given her. She opened it. Inside was more money than they had seen in years. Now we can. In the emergency room of Central City Hospital, as doctors examined Sarah, Lily made a call. Mr. Maxwell, it's Lily. My mother is very ill, and they moved up the hearing. It's the day after tomorrow. Richard's voice sounded tense on the other end. They're accelerating everything. Alexander must suspect something. What do we do? There was a long pause. Then, Richard spoke with renewed determination. Get ready, Lily, because we're going to do something my nephew would never expect. What? We're going to tell the truth, the whole truth, in front of the whole world. The waiting room of Central City Hospital smelled of disinfectant and despair. Lily had spent the entire night sitting in a plastic chair, watching the clock tick by second, unable to sleep, unable to think of anything but her mother behind those white doors. The doctors had confirmed the worst, severe pneumonia. Sarah needed immediate hospitalization, expensive medication, and, above all, absolute rest. Weeks of walking in the rain looking for work, sleepless nights, worrying about her daughter, and the constant stress of living under threat had destroyed her immune system. She's strong, doctor. Miranda Solis, a woman with compassionate eyes who seemed genuinely concerned, had said, but she needs to stay here for at least a week. If the infection reaches her lungs completely, we could be talking about something much more serious. A week, the hearing was in 2 days. Lily felt like the universe was conspiring against them. Every time they found a small glimmer of hope, a new darkness appeared to extinguish it. Her phone vibrated. It was a message from Maria Rodriguez. Mr. Maxwell needs to see you. It's urgent. Sending address. Lily looked towards the room where her mother slept, connected to machines that monitored every beat of her heart. She didn't want to leave her alone, but she also couldn't do nothing while her world crumbled. She asked a nurse to keep an eye on her mother and left the hospital. The address led her to an old building in a part of the city Lily didn't know. There were no signs, no indications, just a dark wooden door that opened before she could knock. Maria was waiting inside. "Follow me," she said without further explanation. They climbed narrow stairs until they reached an office that seemed straight out of another era. Books covered the walls from floor to ceiling. Ancient maps hung in gilded frames. And in the center, sitting behind a solid oak desk, Richard Maxwell reviewed documents with a grave expression, but he wasn't alone. Lily stopped dead in her tracks when she recognized the other people in the room. Elena Dubois, the French investor, sat in a leather armchair, her legs elegantly crossed. Omar al-Rashid, the Arab businessman, stood by the window, his expression serious but not hostile. And Yuki Tanaka, the Japanese executive, occupied a chair near the desk, her hands resting on a briefcase. "What's going on?" Lily asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Sit down, Lily," Richard pointed to an empty chair. "There's a lot to explain and little time." Lily obeyed, though every muscle in her body screamed for her to run. Elena Dubois was the first to speak. Her Spanish had an elegant accent, but it was perfectly understandable. "After what we witnessed in that meeting room, none of us could forget you. A child facing a man like Thorne, demonstrating skills that professionals would take decades to develop. It was extraordinary, but more than that." Omar al-Rashid continued, his deep voice resonating in the room. "It was revealing. Thorne showed his true nature that day, and that made us investigate his businesses more deeply." "Investigate?" Lily looked at Richard for an explanation. "International investors have resources that I don't have," Richard explained. "When I contacted them a few days ago, they had already begun their own investigations into Thorne Holdings. What they found is devastating." Yuki Tanaka opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Forged documents, manipulated contracts, bribes to officials in 6 different countries, labor exploitation in subsidiary factories, and something worse. She handed the folder to Lily. "Your mother wasn't the first employee Thorne destroyed for personal reasons. There's a pattern. Dozens of people over the years. Workers who contradicted him, who refused to participate in his schemes, who simply rubbed him the wrong way. All ended up the same. Fired, defamed, blocked from getting employment anywhere." Lily skimmed the documents. Names, dates, testimonies, stories of destroyed families, ruined careers, shattered lives. Her mother was just the latest victim of a monster who had operated with impunity for years. "Why didn't anyone do anything before?" she asked in a broken voice. "Because power protects power," Elena replied with bitterness. "Thorne has connections in the government, in the media, in the judicial system. Anyone who tried to expose him was silenced before they could speak. But now, there are many of us. And we have something Thorne didn't expect," Omar added. "What?" "You." Richard leaned forward. "Your story has gone viral, Lily. The video from the meeting room was leaked online 3 days ago." "What?" Lily felt the air leave her lungs. "How?" "I leaked it," Richard admitted, without remorse. "It was a calculated risk. I knew Thorne would accelerate his revenge, but I also knew the world needed to see who my nephew really is." Maria turned on a screen on the wall. The video showed exactly what Lily remembered. Thorne, laughing at her, the $1 million challenge, her demonstration in 4 languages, the humility with the Japanese. But what was most shocking were the numbers below the video. 47 million views. In 3 days. "The whole world is talking about you," Elena said. "You're trending in 17 countries. Journalists from all over the planet want to interview you, and most importantly, they are investigating Thorne." Lily couldn't process what she was seeing. Her moment of humiliation had turned into something completely different. People weren't laughing at her. They admired her, defended her, demanded justice. The comments, Yuki pointed to the screen, where thousands of messages appeared. They're asking Thorne to fulfill his promise, the $1 million. "People say you deserve it." "I don't want his money," Lily said firmly. "I just want him to leave my family alone. And that's exactly what we're going to achieve." Richard stood up. "But we need your help." "My help for what?" "For the press conference we've organized for tomorrow." The next few hours were a whirlwind of preparation. Richard explained the plan. Tomorrow, hours before the Child Protective Services hearing, they would hold an international press conference. The investors would present evidence of Thorne's corporate crimes. Richard would reveal his identity as the company's founder and publicly denounce his nephew's actions. And Lily would tell her story. Not just what happened in the meeting room, Richard clarified. Everything. Your mother's unjust dismissal, the campaign to prevent her from getting work, the anonymous report, the body valuator, everything. And you think it will work? Lily asked skeptically. Thorn has power. He has lawyers. He has connections. But he doesn't have something we do have, Omar responded with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Documented truth. And 47 million witnesses who are already on your side. Elena approached Lily and took her hands. I know you're scared. Anyone would be. But what you did in that meeting room showed you have more courage than men who have led nations. You are not alone in this. Yuki nodded. In Japan, we say nana korobi ya oki. It means fall 7 times and get up 8. You've already gotten up more times than I can count. 1 more won't defeat you. Lily looked at each of them. An old man seeking redemption. A French investor who had risked millions for principles. An Arab businessman who believed in justice. A Japanese executive who valued humility over arrogance. And her, a child who only wanted to protect her mother. Okay, she finally said. I'll do it. That night, Lily returned to the hospital. Her mother was awake, though weak. Where were you? Sarah asked in a hoarse voice. Lily sat beside her bed and told her everything. The viral video, the investors, the plan for the press conference, the approaching hearing. When she finished, Sarah was crying silently. My brave girl, she whispered. When did you stop being my little girl and become a warrior? I never stopped being your little girl, Mom. I just learned to fight for what I love. I'm scared, Sarah admitted. I'm scared of what might happen to you if you publicly confront that man. I'm scared too. Lily took her mother's hand. But I'm more afraid of doing nothing and losing you, of them separating us, of him winning. And if it doesn't work, then at least the world will know the truth. And that's something no one can take from us. Sarah closed her eyes. Your grandmother used to say that words have power, that whoever masters words masters the world. My grandmother? You never told me much about her. She died when I was young. But she was a translator, just like you. She spoke 6 languages. She worked for embassies, for companies, for governments. And she always said her greatest gift wasn't languages, but the ability to make different people understand each other. Lily felt tears forming in her eyes. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because when she died, I lost my connection to that world. I became what the world expected of me. Someone invisible who cleans up what others dirty. But you, Lily, you inherited her fire, and tomorrow you're going to do exactly what she always dreamed of. What? You're going to use words to change the world. The morning of the press conference dawned gray and cold. Lily had barely slept. She had spent hours going over what she would say, how she would say it, anticipating questions they might ask her, but nothing had prepared her for what she found when she arrived at the hall, where the event would take place. Hundreds of journalists filled the space. Television cameras from all over the world pointed toward a small stage where a podium with microphones had been placed. Outside, Maria informed her, thousands of people had gathered, many with signs that read, Justice for Lillian Thorne must pay. The world is watching, Richard told her as they walked toward the stage. Are you ready? No, Lily admitted. But I'm going to do it anyway. The conference began with Richard introducing himself, revealing his identity as the founder of Thorne Holdings and publicly denouncing his nephew's actions. Journalists exploded with questions, but Richard remained calm, presenting document after document as evidence. Then came the investors. Elena spoke about financial irregularities. Omar revealed the international bribes. Yuki presented testimonies from former employees who had suffered the same fate as Sarah. And finally, it was Lily's turn. She walked to the podium with trembling legs, but a voice that refused to break. She looked at the cameras, imagined the millions of eyes watching her from all over the world, and began to speak. My name is Lily Evans. I am 11 years old. My mother is a cleaning employee, and a month ago, a powerful man promised to give me $1 million if I could translate documents in 5 languages. She paused. The silence in the room was absolute. I translated 4 out of 5 perfectly. The 5th was Japanese, a language I don't know, but instead of lying, I admitted my limitation and asked to learn. Do you know what that man did? The cameras captured every word, every expression, every tear. Lily refused to let fall. He laughed. He said it was a joke, and then he fired my mother for taking me to work that day. But that wasn't enough for him. He made sure no company in the city would hire my mother. He filed an anonymous report to have me removed from her custody. He bought officials to ensure we lost everything. She held up a folder containing copies of the evidence. Here is the proof. Documents, recordings, testimonies. Everything you need to see who Alexander Thorne really is. Lily looked directly at the main camera. Mr. Thorne, if you are watching this, I want you to know something. I am not afraid of you. My mother taught me that dignity cannot be bought or sold, and my grandmother, whom I never knew, but whose fire runs through my veins, taught me that words can change the world. Her voice strengthened with each sentence. You tried to destroy us, but all you accomplished was to awaken something that cannot be put back to sleep, because now the world knows who you are, and the world is watching. The silence that followed Lily's words lasted barely 3 seconds. Then chaos. Journalists rose from their seats, shouting questions. Camera flashes exploded like fireworks. The murmur of the crowd outside turned into a roar that penetrated the building's walls. But Lily didn't hear any of that. Her eyes were fixed on a side screen showing the live broadcast. The viewer numbers climbed every second. 1 million, 2 million, 5 million. People from all over the world were witnessing this moment. Richard approached the podium and took control. Now we will answer questions in an orderly manner. Please raise your hand. Hands shot up like a forest of desperate fingers. You in the front row. Richard pointed to a red-haired journalist with an international news network credential. Thank you. I'm Victoria Campos from Global News Network. Mr. Maxwell, you claim to be the founder of Thorne Holdings and Alexander Thorne's uncle. Do you have proof of this kinship? Richard nodded. I have birth certificates, informal adoption documents, bank records showing the transfers I made for his education, and family photographs spanning decades. All will be submitted to the appropriate authorities. Another hand went up. A bald man with a British accent. Jonathan Pierce, Financial Times. To the investors present, are you willing to formally testify against Thorne Holdings? And what implications would this have for your own businesses? Elena Dubois approached the microphone. We are willing to testify. As for the implications, we will lose money, a lot of money. But there are things more important than profit. Integrity is one of them. Omar al-Rashid added, in my culture, honor is worth more than gold. What we witnessed in that meeting room was the dishonor of a man who believes money protects him from everything. He was wrong. Questions continued for almost an hour about the documents, about the testimonies, about Thorne's pattern of behavior. Each answer was another stone in the wall being built around the CEO's empire. Finally, a young journalist raised her hand timidly. This question is for Lily. How did you learn so many languages at such a young age? Lily looked at the journalist. It was the first question addressed specifically to her since her initial statement. My mother worked all day, she began. When I was little, I spent a lot of time alone. The neighbors in our building came from different countries. Mrs. Ingrid from Germany taught me her language while she watched me. Mr. Ahmad from Syria told me stories in Arabic while his wife cooked for us. Madame Colette, an elderly French woman who lived on the 3rd floor, read me poetry in her language every afternoon. She paused, remembering faces she hadn't seen in years. To them, I wasn't the cleaning lady's daughter. I was simply Lily, a curious child who asked many questions. They taught me their languages because it was all they had to give, and I learned because it was the only way I knew to thank them for their love. The silence that followed was different from before. It wasn't tension or expectation, it was respect. And English? The journalist asked softly. The internet. Lily smiled slightly. Videos, movies, songs. My mother couldn't afford private lessons, but knowledge is there for anyone who wants to seek it. The conference ended past noon. As Lily was escorted out of the building, her phone began to vibrate uncontrollably. Messages from unknown numbers, social media notifications, missed calls from international prefixes, but only one message caught her attention. It was from Dr. Miranda Solis at the hospital. Your mother is awake. She's asking for you. Come when you can. Lily ran. In the hospital room, Sarah sat in bed, with her eyes fixed on a small television broadcasting the news. The press conference was the main topic on every channel. My girl, she whispered when Lily entered. My little warrior. Lily threw herself into her arms, crying for the first time in days. All the contained emotions, all the fear, all the pressure, came out in sobs that shook her entire body. You did it, Sarah caressed her hair. You faced a monster, and the whole world saw it. I was so scared, Mom. So scared of failing, of it being for nothing. But you didn't fail. You have never failed, Lily. Everything you've done with your heart, and the heart never lies. Dr. Solis entered at that moment with a smile that lit up her face. I have good news. The infection is responding to treatment. If everything continues like this, your mother could leave the hospital in 4 or 5 days. Really? Lily felt a wave of relief. Really, although she'll need absolute rest for several weeks. No stress, no worries. Sarah laughed softly. That will be difficult with a daughter who just declared war on one of the most powerful men in the country. The doctor looked at them with curiosity. I saw the press conference. The whole hospital saw it. The nurses are talking about organizing a collection for you both. We don't need charity, Sarah began to say, but Lily interrupted her. We need justice, doctor, and today we took the first step to get it. The following hours were a whirlwind of calls and visits. Maria arrived first with news that changed everything. The Attorney General announced a formal investigation into Thorn Holdings. They are reviewing all the documents we presented, and there's more. 3 former employees who had remained silent out of fear now want to testify. Then came Richard, visibly exhausted, but with renewed energy. Alexander has disappeared. He's not at his home, he's not at the office, he's not at any of his usual places. His lawyers say he's evaluating legal options. But the truth is, he's on the run. On the run? Lily frowned. Where to? He has properties in several countries, bank accounts in offshore tax havens. He could be anywhere. And tomorrow's hearing, the CPS one? Richard smiled for the first time in days. Cancelled. The official Alexander had bought, David Miller, was arrested this morning. He confessed everything in exchange for a reduced sentence. The anonymous report against your family has been officially dismissed. Lily felt her knees give way. Sarah held her as both cried tears of relief. It means they're not going to separate me from my mom? It means exactly that. No one is going to separate you, ever. But the calm was short-lived. That night, as Lily dozed in a chair beside her mother's bed, her phone rang. It was a blocked number. She hesitated before answering. Something in her instinct told her not to, but curiosity was stronger. Hello, Lily Evans. The voice on the other end was distorted, unrecognizable. You've made a grave mistake. Who is this? Someone who knows things. Things even Richard Maxwell doesn't know about his dear nephew. Lily felt a chill run down her spine. What things? Alexander Thorn isn't who everyone believes. His cruelty has deeper roots than you imagine. Roots that extend to your own family. My family? I don't understand. Your grandmother, the translator Catherine. Do you think it was a coincidence she died so young? Do you think it was a coincidence your mother ended up working at Thorn's company? Lily's heart was beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. What are you saying? I'm saying there's a story no one has told you. A story that connects your family to the Thorns for decades. And if you want to know the whole truth, you need to look in the place where it all began. What place? Richard Maxwell's personal archive. Ask him about the year he met your grandmother. Ask him what happened at the French embassy. Ask him why your mother never knew who her father was. The line disconnected. Lily remained paralyzed. The phone still pressed to her ear. The mysterious voice's words bounced in her mind like echoes in a dark cavern. Her grandmother, the French embassy, her mother's father. What did it all mean? She looked at Sarah, who was sleeping deeply thanks to the medication. Her mother had never spoken of her father. Lily had always assumed it was a painful subject, something she shouldn't ask about. But now the questions multiplied like viruses in her mind. Who was her mother's father? What connection did her grandmother have to the Thorns? And why did someone want her to know all this now? The next morning, Lily confronted Richard. She found him in his office reviewing legal documents related to the investigation against his nephew. When she entered, he immediately noticed something had changed in her expression. Last night I received a call, she said without preamble. Someone told me to ask you about my grandmother, about the French embassy, about my mother's father. Color drained from Richard's face. Who called you? I don't know. The voice was distorted, but they knew things. Things that made me realize there's a story no one has told me. Richard sank into his chair as if he had suddenly doubled in weight. I hoped you would never have to know this, he murmured. I hoped I could help you without the truth coming to light. What truth? The old man closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, there were tears in them. Your grandmother, Catherine Evans, was the most extraordinary woman I ever met. She worked as a translator at the French embassy when I met her. She had the same light in her eyes as you, the same passion for languages, the same inner fire. He paused, as if each word cost him physical effort. We fell in love. It was a forbidden love. Impossible. I was married. I had responsibilities, a reputation to maintain, but Catherine was like a magnet. I couldn't stay away from her, even though I knew I should. Lily felt the ground move beneath her feet. You're saying that you and my grandmother had a relationship? It lasted almost 2 years, and from that relationship, a child was born. A girl, Catherine, raised alone, because I was too cowardly to publicly acknowledge her. My mother, Lily whispered. My mother is your daughter. Richard nodded, unable to look her in the eyes. Sarah is my daughter, which means you, Lily, are my granddaughter. Lily's world crumbled and rebuilt in an instant. Everything she thought she knew about her family, about her history, about herself, was a lie. My mother knows? No. Catherine never told her. She made me promise to keep it a secret until my death. But now. Thorn is your nephew. Lily connected the dots with growing horror. Which means Thorn is my mother's cousin. Which means the man who tried to destroy us is my family. Yes. Richard finally looked at her. Alexander knows nothing of this. No one knew, except me and your grandmother. But someone else discovered the truth. Someone who wants to use it. Use it for what? I don't know, but we have to find out before it's too late. Lily sank into a chair, her mind processing information that changed everything. She was the granddaughter of Richard Maxwell, cousin of Alexander Thorn, heir to a legacy she never knew existed. And someone somewhere knew all these secrets, and was using them as pieces in a game she was just beginning to understand. What do we do now? She asked in a trembling voice. Now. Richard stood up with renewed determination. We find out who is behind this, and discover what they really want. But before they could take the first step, Richard's phone rang. It was Maria, and her voice sounded terrified. Mr. Maxwell, turn on the news now. Richard turned on the TV. The image that appeared made them both hold their breath. Alexander Thorn was on screen, standing in front of a microphone with a blood-chilling smile, and the words he uttered changed everything. I have information that will destroy Richard Maxwell and reveal that the little heroine Lily Evans is part of a family conspiracy to steal my company, and I have the proof to show it. Alexander Thorn's words echoed on the screen like a death sentence. Lily felt the air leave her lungs. Richard visibly paled, his hands trembling as he watched his nephew on the screen. In the next 24 hours, Thorn continued with that blood-chilling smile. I will reveal documents that prove Richard Maxwell has been planning for decades to regain control of my company, and his secret weapon is a child who happens to be his illegitimate granddaughter. The word hit Lily like a punch. Illegitimate. As if her existence were a mistake, as if her life were a stain that needed to be erased. This supposed David versus Goliath story, Thorn spat the words, is actually a family conspiracy to destroy me, and I have someone who can confirm everything. The camera moved, revealing a person sitting next to Thorn. Mark Davis, the lawyer who had been his right-hand man, the man who had executed every cruel order, every ruthless revenge. Now he was there, with a nervous but determined expression. Mr. Davis, Thorn addressed him. Tell the world what you know. Mark cleared his throat. For years I worked alongside Mr. Maxwell before he retired. I witnessed private conversations where he expressed his intention to regain the company when the time was right. He mentioned a secret daughter he would someday use as a legitimate heiress. Lily looked at Richard with horror. Is that true? No, Richard denied vehemently. Mark is lying. He never worked with me directly. He was hired by Alexander, years after my retirement. Then why is he saying those things? Because Alexander has him trapped. Mark knows too much about my nephew's real crimes. If he doesn't cooperate, he'll go to prison with him. On the screen, Thorn continued his performance. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., in the same place where this child put on her media circus, I will present all the evidence. The world will see who the Maxwells and the Evanses really are. A family of liars and manipulators. The broadcast ended. The silence in Richard's office was deafening. We have to do something. Lily broke the silence. We can't let him lie about us. What he says has no legal basis. Richard tried to stay calm, but his voice trembled. There are no documents to prove a conspiracy, because no conspiracy exists. But the public damage is already done, Maria intervened. The people who supported you now have doubts. Social media is exploding with theories. Richard's phone rang. It was Elena Dubois. Richard, I just saw the broadcast. We need to talk now. Half an hour later, the investors were gathered again in the office. Their expressions mixed concern and determination. Thorn's accusation is ridiculous. Omar al-Rashid spoke first. Anyone who saw the original video knows that child wasn't acting. Her talent is genuine. But Thorn has something, Elena pointed out with pragmatism. He wouldn't make such a statement without having some kind of evidence, even if it's fabricated. Fabricated? Lily asked. False documents, Yuki Tanaka explained. In the corporate world, it's more common than you imagine. Papers are created that look legitimate, but are completely invented. And how do we prove they're false? That's the problem. Elena Sehild. Proving something is false is much harder than proving something is true. Lily's phone vibrated, a message from a blocked number. If you want the truth about Mark Davis, look in the closed cases file of the State Bar Association. Case number 2,847. Not everything is as it seems. Lily showed the message to the others. It's the same person who called me last night, she said. The one who knows about my grandmother and my family. Someone is helping us from the shadows. Richard frowned. But who? It doesn't matter who it is right now. Maria was already at her computer. What matters is if the information is real. She typed quickly, accessing databases Lily didn't know existed. Here it is. Maria turned the screen. Case 2,847 of the State Bar Association. Mark Davis was investigated years ago for falsifying documents in a civil case. The investigation was closed due to lack of evidence, but the file mentions something interesting. What? Everyone asked in unison. The original whistleblower was threatened and dropped the charges. Guess who legally represented the accused party? Thorn Holdings. Alexander, Richard murmured. Exactly. Mark has been falsifying documents for Thorn for years, and now he's doing the same against us. Night fell over the city. While the group worked frantically, Lily knew she had to return to the hospital with her mother, but she also knew that if they didn't stop Thorn now, everything they had achieved would crumble. I need to go see my mom, she finally said. She doesn't know anything about what's happening. Go, Richard nodded. We'll keep working. Tomorrow we'll need all our strength. Mr. Maxwell. Lily stopped at the door. My mother doesn't know that you're her father. When are you going to tell her? The old man looked down. When all this is over, I don't want her to have any more worries now. She deserves to know the truth. I know, and I will tell her, I promise. At the hospital, Sarah was awake, watching the news on the small television. I saw Thorn's conference, she said when Lily entered. That man has no limits. Mom, there's something I need to tell you. Lily sat beside her mother and told her everything. About Richard, about Catherine, about the secret that had remained hidden for decades. With each word, Sarah's face went through different emotions. Surprise, disbelief, pain, confusion. Richard Maxwell is my father. Her voice was barely a whisper. Yes, Mom, you are his daughter, and I am his granddaughter, and Thorn is your cousin and mine too. Sarah closed her eyes. Tears began to fall silently down her cheeks. My mother never told me anything, she murmured. Whenever I asked about my father, she changed the subject. She said some secrets were better left unknown. Are you angry? Sarah opened her eyes and looked at her daughter. I don't know what I feel. All my life I thought I was nobody's child, that my father just didn't want me, and now I find out he's one of the richest men in the country who watched us for years without saying anything. He was scared, Mom. Scared of ruining Grandma's memory. Scared of complicating your life. And that justifies it? Decades of silence while we struggled to survive? Lily had no answer. She understood her mother's rage. She also understood Richard's reasons, but understanding didn't mean accepting. I want to see him, Sarah said suddenly. Now. Now. Before dawn. Before that monster. Thorn tries to destroy the little we have left. Richard arrived at the hospital an hour later. Lily waited outside the room, giving them privacy. Through the closed door, she could hear voices. First calm, then more intense, then sobs. The conversation lasted almost 2 hours. When Richard finally emerged, his eyes were red from crying. He seemed to have aged 10 years in one night. How is she? Lily asked. Angry, hurt, confused. Richard leaned against the wall. She has every right to feel that way. I stole her chance to know her father. I stole a life that could have been different. Did she forgive you? I don't know, he said. She said she needs time, but she also said something that gave me hope. What? She said that despite everything, she's proud of you, of the woman you've become, and that if I had anything to do with that, even indirectly, then perhaps there's some good amidst so much error. Lily felt tears forming in her eyes. She entered the room and found her mother looking out the window. Mom, Sarah turned. Her face showed the traces of tears. But there was something else. Something Lily recognized, because she had seen it in the mirror many times. Determination. We're going to put an end to this, Sarah said with a firm voice. That man Thorn is my cousin, my own blood, and he has dedicated his life to destroying innocent people, including us. Mom, you're sick. You need to rest. I'll rest when this is over. Right now, my place is by your side. The doctors won't let you leave. Then we'll leave without them seeing us." Sarah smiled for the first time in days. "Do you think only you inherited your grandmother's fire?" Dawn found an improbable group gathered in Richard's office. Sarah, pale but determined, sat in an armchair with a blanket over her shoulders, Lily beside her, holding her hand. Richard, facing them with an expression of astonishment at seeing the daughter he never knew facing the battle alongside him. The investors occupied the rest of the room, each contributing resources and contacts. And in the center of the table, a screen showed the discovery that would change everything. "We found the origin of the mysterious call," Maria announced. "You won't believe who it is." The image on the screen showed a face everyone recognized. It was a middle-aged woman with features that were strangely familiar. "Her name is Clara Thorne," Maria explained. "She's Alexander Thorne's younger sister, and apparently she's been collecting evidence against her own brother for years." "Thorne has a sister?" Lily couldn't believe it. "A sister he practically erased from existence," Richard murmured, recognizing the face. "Clara, the last time I saw her, she was barely a teenager. Alexander sent her away when he took control of the company. He said it was for her own good, but the truth is, she was always my parents' favorite. He couldn't stand it, and now she's helping us." "Apparently so." "Maria, can you contact her?" "I already have. She's on her way." Clara Thorne arrived 30 minutes before Thorne's press conference. When she entered the office, Lily immediately noticed the family resemblance. The same eyes as Richard, the same upright posture. But where Thorne radiated cruelty, Clara emanated a deep sadness mixed with resolution. "Uncle Richard," was the first thing she said. "It's been a long time. Too long." Richard approached and hugged her. "Why didn't you ever contact me?" "Because Alexander threatened me," she said. "He said if I ever tried to approach the family, he would destroy everything I loved. But I have nothing left to lose." Clara separated from the embrace, but her gaze went to Lily, and when I saw what he did to this child, I knew it was time to act. She looked at Lily with a mixture of admiration and pain. "You are brave, braver than any of us. You faced my brother when everyone else looked away. What do you have for us, Lily?" She was direct. "Thorne's conference starts in less than an hour." Clara pulled a hard drive from her bag. 23 years of evidence, recordings, documents, testimonies, everything you need to prove that the documents my brother will present today are false. And much more. "How did you get all this?" "Because Alexander never considered me a threat. I was just his weak sister, the one who had been banished and forgotten. It never occurred to him that I was watching, waiting, collecting every mistake he made." Clara connected the drive to the computer. Folders appeared on the screen. "Here's proof that Mark Davis's documents were created just 3 days ago. The metadata doesn't lie." And here, she opened another folder. "Are the original recordings of the meetings where Alexander ordered every act of revenge against his enemies, including the campaign against Sarah Evans." Sarah leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the screen. "You have recordings of him ordering my destruction?" "I have recordings of everything. My brother never learned to be careful because he never believed anyone would dare to challenge him." Clara looked at everyone present. "Alexander took my family, my inheritance, my life. Today, I'm finally going to reclaim some of what I lost." "What thing?" Lily asked. "My dignity and the justice so many deserve." The conference hall was packed. Journalists from all over the world occupied every available seat. Television cameras broadcast live to over 100 countries. Outside, thousands of people had gathered, many with signs that read, "Justice for Lily and the world is watching." Alexander Thorne entered first, flanked by Mark Davis and an army of lawyers. His arrogant smile radiated the confidence of someone who believes they have won before the battle even begins. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began from the podium, "today I will reveal the truth about the most elaborate conspiracy this city has witnessed." He held up a thick folder. "Here I have documents that prove Richard Maxwell planned for decades to regain my company using a child as a media weapon. A child who happens to be his illegitimate granddaughter, the product of a secret relationship with an employee." Murmurs filled the room. "Mark Davis, my legal advisor, witnessed these conspiracies and is prepared to testify under oath." Mark approached the microphone, but before he could speak, the doors of the hall burst open. Lily entered first. Behind her, Sarah walked with a firm stride despite her weakness. Richard followed her alongside the international investors, and closing the group, a woman who made Thorne lose all color in his face. Clara Thorne. "Clara!" Thorne's voice trembled for the first time. "What are you doing here?" "I came to tell the truth, brother. The truth you've tried to bury for 23 years. Clara walked to the podium with the same authority her brother had occupied moments before. My name is Clara Thorne. I am Alexander Thorne's younger sister, and for over 2 decades, I have documented every crime, every lie, every life my brother has destroyed. She connected the hard drive to the main screen in the hall. These documents my brother just showed were created 3 days ago. Digital metadata confirms it. They are false, fabricated by Mark Davis, who has a documented history of falsification. The screen showed the evidence. Creation dates, digital records, irrefutable proof. But that's not all, Clara continued. Here are the real recordings. The conversations where Alexander ordered the destruction of Sarah Evans simply because her daughter humiliated him by demonstrating a talent he could never buy. Thorne's voice filled the hall, clear and unmistakable. I want that woman never to work anywhere in this city again, and I want the child to end up in the system, so they learn what it means to defy me. The journalists exploded with questions. Camera flashes lit up the room like lightning. Thorne retreated, his face transforming from arrogance to panic. That's manipulated, he shouted. It's a conspiracy. The only conspiracy here is yours. Richard stepped forward. For years I watched you destroy lives while I remained silent. That silence ends today. He looked at Sarah, who nodded slightly. Sarah Evans is my daughter. Lily Evans is my granddaughter. And yes, for decades I kept that secret out of cowardice. But I never, ever conspired to regain a company. All I wanted was to protect my family from a monster I myself helped create. Mark Davis, seeing the ship sinking, made a desperate decision. I can explain everything. He approached the microphone. Thorne forced me to lie. He threatened to destroy me if I didn't cooperate. I have proof of his other crimes. Crimes no one knows about yet. Shut up. Thorne lunged at his former ally, but security guards stopped him. At that moment, federal agents entered the hall. Alexander Thorne, the lead agent, spoke in a clear voice. You are arrested for corporate fraud, bribery of public officials, document forgery, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. As he was handcuffed, Thorne looked at Lily with pure hatred. This isn't over, he hissed. I have resources. I have connections. I'll be back. Lily looked at him without fear. No, Mr. Thorne, you won't be back, because now the world knows who you really are, and the world doesn't forget. The following months were about rebuilding. Thorne International Holdings was thoroughly investigated. Decades of corruption, bribes, and destruction of lives were uncovered. Alexander was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Mark Davis, in exchange for his cooperation, received a reduced sentence but lost his law license forever. Thorne's confiscated assets were used to compensate all victims of his abuses. Dozens of families that had been destroyed, like Lily's, finally received justice. And the $1 million Thorne had promised as a cruel joke was ordered by the court as official compensation for Lily Evans. I don't want his money, Lily had said when she was informed. Then use it for something good, Richard suggested, and so she did. The Catherine Evans Foundation opened its doors 6 months after the trial. Named in honor of her grandmother, the foundation was dedicated to identifying and supporting talented young people without resources, boys and girls with extraordinary abilities but no opportunities, exactly as Lily had been. Elena Dubois, Omar Al-Rashid, and Yuki Tanaka became principal sponsors. Clara Thorne donated her share of the family inheritance to fund educational scholarships. And Richard, finally reconciled with his daughter Sarah, dedicated his last years to working alongside his granddaughter. Sarah fully recovered from her illness. The best doctors, paid with funds they could finally afford, treated her until her health was stronger than ever. She now worked as a foundation coordinator, helping other mothers who faced the same struggles she had survived. Mom, Lily asked her one afternoon as they reviewed scholarship applications. Did you forgive Mr. Maxwell? Sarah smiled softly. Forgiveness isn't a moment, honey. It's a process. But every day I see him trying to make amends for his mistakes. Every day I see him loving you as the grandfather he always should have been. That process moves forward a little more. And someday you'll call him Dad? Perhaps. When I'm ready. When he's ready. When both of us have healed enough. On Lily's birthday, a letter arrived from prison. It was from Alexander Thorne. I don't expect your forgiveness, he wrote, in a trembling hand. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that every day in this place I think about the moment you laughed at me without laughing, when you showed that true power is not in money or titles, but in dignity. A dignity I lost a long time ago, if I ever had it. Your grandmother Catherine was extraordinary. Now I understand why my uncle loved her so much, and I understand why you are who you are. I hope that someday, when you are an adult, you can look back and see that even monsters can learn, even if it's too late." Lily read the letter 3 times before putting it away. She didn't respond. It wasn't necessary. Some wounds need time, some answers don't exist, and some people simply must live with the consequences of their decisions. Years later, Lily Evans became the youngest translator to work for the United Nations. Her story was told in documentaries, books, and films, but she always insisted that her story wasn't the important one. "It's my mother's story," she would say in every interview, "who worked her whole life to give me opportunities. It's my grandmother Catherine's story, who bequeathed me the love of languages without even knowing me. It's the story of all the invisible people who have extraordinary talents, but never get the chance to show it." In her office, on her desk, she kept a framed photo. It was of that day, in Thorne Holdings's meeting room, a girl with a school backpack, surrounded by executives who mocked her. Below the photo, a plaque with words her mother had told her that night in the hospital. Words can change the world. And indeed they had, because one girl had shown that talent doesn't need certificates, that dignity is priceless, and that sometimes the biggest giants can be brought down by the smallest voices. All it takes is the courage to speak and someone willing to listen.